Caitlin Clark just sent shockwaves through the WNBA with a final message that felt less like encouragement and more like a farewell. Now fans can't stop asking, did she just hint at walking away from the league for good? From the moment she set foot on a WNBA court, Clark wasn't just another rookie, she was a phenomenon. Records shattered under her name as easily as other players broke a sweat. She drilled threes from impossible distances, piled up assists, and dragged the Indiana Fever into the spotlight almost overnight. Her games became sellouts. Her jersey outsold veterans. Even casual fans tuned in just to witness what she'd do next. By the end of her rookie year, she wasn't just a star, she was the face of the league. Rookie of the Year, multiple records, an ESPY for Best WNBA Player. For a league desperate to grow, Caitlin wasn't only its present, she was its future. But the heavier that future became, the more cracks began to show. The unstoppable rise suddenly faced challenges nobody saw coming. And instead of fading into the offseason like most players, Clark came back different, harder, sharper, hungrier. Clips surfaced of her grinding in the weight room, bulking up in ways fans had never seen before. Her frame looked stronger, her shoulders broader. Commentators started saying, nobody's going to push her around anymore. This wasn't just a workout glow-up, it was a transformation. A statement. She wasn't just preparing to withstand the WNBA's physicality, she was ready to dominate it. Her game evolved, too. Reports out of practice told of a player obsessed with efficiency, faster releases, tighter footwork, smarter reads. She was no longer relying solely on her deep range. She was building a complete arsenal. Teammates admitted privately they'd never seen anyone so locked in, so determined to silence doubters before the next season even began. And fans, they couldn't get enough. Clips of Caitlin Clark's transformation spread like wildfire, with headlines calling it the WNBA's off-season shock. She was no longer just the league's star rookie, she was becoming its powerhouse. For the Indiana Fever, this was supposed to be the turning point, the season when all the hype finally turned into playoff momentum. But while Caitlin was busy rebuilding herself into an unstoppable force, forces outside of her control were rising, too. Just when it looked like she was ready to dominate year two, the season ahead threw obstacles her way that no amount of training could prepare her for. The WNBA has a way of reminding even its brightest stars, nothing comes easy. For Caitlin Clark, that lesson came brutally fast. Early in her second season, just as fans were expecting her to explode with new strength and confidence, the setbacks started piling up. First came the confusing bench stints, long stretches on the sideline that had fans questioning why the league's most marketable player wasn't in when games were on the line. Then came the injuries, a nagging groin issue, hard fouls that left her shaken, and whispers that referees weren't protecting her the way a superstar should be. The timing couldn't have been worse. The league had built her up as the face of the WNBA, and now every stumble was magnified 100 times over. Commentators pointed out how she was targeted physically in nearly every game, shoved, elbowed, hacked, while whistles often stayed silent. Opponents treated her like a bullseye, and fans saw it, too. Viral clips of Clark taking brutal hits sparked debates over whether the league was intentionally letting its new star get battered. Then came the heartbreak. Missing the All-Star Showcase, the very stage the WNBA had planned to spotlight her as the centerpiece of its future. Instead, she was sidelined, forced to watch from the shadows while her rivals soaked up the attention. To fans, it felt like the league's golden child was being stripped of her shine before she even had the chance to fully own it. Her frustration was clear. Yes, she still flashed brilliance, deep threes, clutch assists, game-changing runs, but the rhythm was broken. Instead of writing the next chapter as an unstoppable phenom, the story was starting to sound more like survival. And survival wasn't what Caitlin Clark came to the WNBA for. But this was only the beginning of the storm. Because while the injuries attacked her body, the real damage was about to hit her legacy from inside the locker room and across the league. As the physical battles wore Caitlin down, another fight was quietly brewing off the court, inside the locker room, and across the league. The same spotlight that turned Clark into a national sensation also painted a massive target on her back, and not just from opponents. Reports began to surface of tension among teammates. Whispers that some veterans resented the way every camera seemed to follow Caitlyn, while their own years of sacrifice were overlooked. For some, her meteoric rise wasn't inspiring, it was suffocating. And then came the rivalries, none bigger than the fiery clashes with Angel Reese, where every foul, every stare down, and every collision became a headline. The media loved it. Fans couldn't get enough. But behind the scenes, it only fueled the sense that Caitlyn was being isolated, boxed in as the outsider who had to fight not just opponents, but the very culture of the league itself. Some fans even accused the WNBA of protecting its old guard while letting Clark take the hits, literally and figuratively. And it wasn't just Reese. Other players, weary of the endless media spotlight on Clark, seemed to crank up their aggression the moment she touched the ball. Hard screens, elbows to the ribs, verbal jabs. Every possession carried extra weight. Through it all, Caitlyn stayed composed in public. But insiders whispered that the pressure was eating at her behind the scenes. Then came the officiating storm. Fans blasted referees for letting too much slide, calling it targeting by negligence. Each controversial no-call felt like another betrayal, another signal that the league wasn't protecting the very player it was using to sell tickets and drive ratings. Suddenly, Caitlyn's story didn't look like a hero's coronation. It looked like a test, maybe even punishment, for being too big, too fast, too soon. And as emotions boiled inside the locker room, fans began asking a chilling question. If she isn't truly welcome here, how long will she stay? The answer, some believe, might already be hidden in the message she left behind. A message that fans are now dissecting like a puzzle piece to her future. And then, it happened. In the middle of all the chaos, Caitlyn Clark dropped a final message that sent the entire basketball world into a frenzy. Just 4 words, sent to Sophie Cunningham after her season-ending injury. Love you always, Soph. On the surface, it looked simple. A note of support. The kind of thing any teammate, or friend, might say. But fans didn't see it that way. To them, it carried a different weight. A farewell. A goodbye. Maybe even a clue that Caitlyn herself was ready to step away. The timing made it impossible to ignore. Coming after weeks of injuries, rivalries, and mounting frustration, the message didn't feel like encouragement. It felt final. Social media erupted. Was Caitlyn saying goodbye to Sophie? Or was she saying goodbye to the WNBA itself? Commentators called it cryptic. Fans dissected every word. And insiders quietly admitted, it sounded like more than just comfort. And here's the thing, Caitlyn never clarified. No long post. No explanation. No press conference. Just silence. And sometimes, silence speaks louder than anything else. If Caitlyn Clark's note was a goodbye, the next question is obvious. What's next? Some fans believe she's preparing for a break from the WNBA altogether, especially after the bruising treatment she's endured on the court. Others point to her growing presence outside the league. She's already hinted at bigger ambitions, talking with icons like David Letterman about sports media, even joking about one day running a team as a general manager. Maybe it was just 4 words of support. Or maybe it was Caitlyn Clark's quiet first step toward a much bigger stage. And then there's her foundation. Focused on education, nutrition, and access to sports for kids, it's growing fast. For many, that work could become Caitlyn's true legacy, one that stretches far beyond the court. Add in her record-breaking influence, television ratings, sponsorships, merchandise, and the picture becomes clear. Caitlyn Clark doesn't need the WNBA to stay relevant. If anything, the WNBA needs her more than she needs it. But here's where the speculation gets louder. Reports suggest those close to Caitlyn believe she's weighing overseas opportunities, where stars are often treated with more respect. Others say she's eyeing media full-time. Nothing's confirmed, but the buzz is undeniable. And so fans keep asking, is she closing this chapter or opening a bigger one? Caitlyn Clark's journey was supposed to be simple: rise to the top, dominate the league, and carry the WNBA into a new golden era. And for a while, that's exactly what it looked like. But between the injuries, the relentless targeting, the locker room tension, and the silence from officials, that golden story twisted into something darker. And now, with just 4 words, love you always, Soph, fans are left wondering if it wasn't just a goodbye to a teammate, but a goodbye to the league itself. The truth is, nobody knows for sure. Maybe Caitlin storms back stronger than ever, silencing every doubt. Maybe she shifts her focus to her foundation, to media, or to overseas opportunities where she can play freely, without the constant weight of controversy. Or maybe, just maybe, this was her way of signaling that her time in the WNBA has already reached its breaking point. One thing is certain, the league will never be the same. Caitlin Clark didn't just change the game. The moment she stepped onto the court, she changed the entire conversation around women's basketball. And whether this was her last message to the WNBA or the first step toward her next chapter, one thing is clear. Nothing will ever go back to the way it was before she arrived.